So here's a classic situation. I'm going to do intro to vocal variety, and I'm planning my speech, and it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, and I practice it, and it's really coming in, it's averaging coming in 9 minutes. Do I trim the speech down to 5 to 7 minutes? I mean, what do? I could trim the speech down to 5 to 7 minutes. That's one thing I could do. But I've really got content I want in there, and this is a speech I might use somewhere else. So I really don't want to cut it out. What do? I contact the Toastmaster and I ask him if I can have more time. And the Toastmaster, go ahead, Doug.
Oh, may I just interject one thing?
Sure.
I've always, in my clubs, we always made it possible for you to ask the Toastmaster at the start of the meeting too, if you can have more time.
Well, and I have seen that happen. That does happen, and usually the Toastmaster will look at the agenda and go, yeah, we have a little flexibility. We don't end our meetings at exactly 8 or 8:15 or 8:30. We're flexible. But it is polite if you know that you're going to need more time, especially if you need a lot more time. It's polite to talk to the Toastmaster in advance and let them know. Now, I've come in and said, hey, I was practicing my speech and it's not 5 to 7, it's really 6 to 8. Okay, I don't think anyone cares. They'll say, okay, it's 6 to 8, fine. But if I'm working on a speech and it's 10 to 12, and I know it's 10 to 12, I'm not going to try to cut it down to 5 to 7. I will call up the Toastmaster in advance or send him an email or send him a text and say, hey, can I have 10 to 12 minutes? Now, they can go in, the Toastmaster can go in and can change these times. They can change the speech so it's 12 minutes long, and rather than this being 38, it'd be more like 43 or 43, I think. But there's nothing you can do to change this little bit of text here, this little 5 to 7 minutes. That's written, that's in the database associated with the vocal variety speech. So you're not going to be able to change that little bit of text where I'm moving my mouse. But this can be changed, and you let the Toastmaster know it's going to be long. If you're going to do a really long speech, like 20 minutes, I'm going to do a custom 20-minute speech, or I'm going to do the preparing to speak professionally, which is a minimum of 20 minutes long. You'd better talk to the Toastmaster in advance, and you might end up being the only speaker of that meeting, which is okay, but let's not surprise anybody with that. Let's plan that in advance.
Kyle, the other thing I do, if I know in advance that somebody needs more time than what's on the database, under the line where it says the third speaker to give a prepared speech, as the VPE, will go in and change that and say the speech is now, 10 to 12 minutes.
Right. Just
so other people that look at the agenda are aware there's a time change.
Sure. And we've had people, we had a meeting a week or two ago where we only had 2 speakers because I believe Lindy was doing a 15 or 20-minute speech. So we had speaker 1 and speaker 2, and that's it. We've also had meetings where we have had 3 speakers, each doing long speeches, and we'll just like, well, okay, we just won't do table topics this week. But the only way the Toastmaster can make those decisions in a reasonable way is if you let them know in advance. Any other questions on what to do if your speech is, oh, and by the way, suppose your speech is under time. Doesn't happen that often, but, hey, it's supposed to be 5 to 7 minutes and it's coming in, 3 to 5 minutes. If there's a reason why that speech needs to be that short, like, yeah, I'm going to use this to talk to the city council and they only give us 3 minutes. Well, tell them you don't need that much time. I've never had a Toastmaster complain that I told them, hey, I don't need all the time.
So can I make sure if my speech, the project length is 5 to 7 minutes, but I need 10 minutes. So ahead of the meeting, I have to inform the VPE,
Toastmaster.
change my timing. Yeah, like,
Yeah. Assuming there's a Toastmaster associated with the meeting, tell the Toastmaster. If the meeting is far enough in advance and doesn't yet have a Toastmaster, talk to the
Yeah.
VPE, talk to the Vice President of Education.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to hit